Are you comfortable?
I'm super comfortable.
Are you? Fabulous. These are actually really nice chairs, aren't they?
They are. My fiance would actually laugh if she saw this, because have you ever heard of haptodysphoria?
No, I have not.
So this is the uneasiness caused by textures. And we've got our wedding coming up, and the one thing that's specified on the whole invites is no velvet.
Oh, wow. So we won't be taking one of these home today. So STARTUP Day doesn't have to worry about us stealing. Hello, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us and coming back after lunch. If you are anywhere in the corners, please feel free to grab a seat, come forward a few rows, come make us feel a little bit more cozy. My name is Anisah Osman Britton. I am a Startup Life reporter at Sifted, which is a media tech company, and we report about startup all around Europe, which is fun and exciting. I specifically focus on how companies actually work. How do things work behind the scenes that are not just flashy valuations and ridiculous headlines about all the buzzwords? Let's not use all of them right now. And I am joined, very excitingly, by Professor Adam Beaumont, who had a lovely introduction, but I will do my own. You have done and are doing a ton of things, including being the founder of communications platform AQL, and you're the founder of Northinvest, which invests at early stage, as well as doing 10,000 other things, it would seem. But before we go into everything, I would love to just hand it over to you to give us a bit of context as to why you and I are having this conversation.
Sure. So just to sort of frame things, originally I was a scientist, so I was a thermodynamicist and quantum mechanicist, but this was just as the internet was starting to sort of rock and roll. And I became more interested in this thing called the internet, and was it a threat, was it an opportunity? The university wouldn't let me play with the internet. In fact, they were quite upset about the idea of that. So I looked for a job where they let me do something with that opportunity. And the job I ended up going for was with the Ministry of Defence. And I was building the first IP-based secure mobile networking. And I did that for a couple of years, and we'll talk a bit more about that later when we sort of get onto dual-use technology and some of the opportunities that I see. But at the same time, I also started a company called AQL. And right at the beginning, and this is late 90s, it was a domain registrar. So it was a platform company. You paid us money, we gave you something that didn't really exist, and that was the magic. And we moved quite quickly into enabling technology. So we built some of the very early APIs. Before they were called APIs, we just called them interfaces. We didn't really know what to call them. And these were interfaces to allow software systems to send and receive text messages, to make voice calls, to connect what we now call the Internet of Things. And the exciting thing about this platform that we built, which was a mixture of physical and virtual, and engineering, and data centers, and interconnected networks across the globe, is we weren't supplying the end user service. What I wanted to do, and what my team wanted to do, is try and be clairvoyant and predict what's the bit of technology that tomorrow's innovator will need in their toolkit. So the bit that they don't want to do, the bit that they say, if only somebody else had done that as a service, then we could just get on with doing what we need to do and get to market with our product, service, get to our customers. So we don't build sector-specific technology, we don't build end-user technology, we're very B2B. And this gives us the privilege of having a ringside seat to enable a lot of the cool companies that you see out there. We are in the background, we're an API, we're part of their engine, and they trust us to make sure that we're always on and doing what we say we're going to do. That ringside seat has given us a really great insight into what's hot, what's not, what's cool, and the direction that technology is going. And as we get more insight through this sort of crowdsourced intelligence, it's allowed us to make better decisions as to what we do next to support innovation. So that's AQL. I still run AQL. I've been running it for 25 years. So it's quite an old tech company. And people ask, why don't I sell it? But I'm having too much fun. And I sell other things. But the other company that I formed back in 2015 is a not-for-profit called Northinvest. And Northinvest was originally designed to drive startups and seed funders together in the north of the UK. But I now see this as just the north. And we're quite north here. In fact, we're more north than the UK by quite a few degrees. And Northinvest, it's not big, but it's super friendly. And it's a really important part of the ecosystem in the UK in terms of bringing together founders, creating a safe space for founders, attracting and supporting female founders, but also melding that with mentorship as well, guidance, a fleet of non-execs, and putting together small but very, very experienced seed funders that are generally a very good, smart money offer for the startups. We've usually got somebody who's a specialist in whatever it may be, whether it's med tech, whether it's crypto, whether it's manufacturing, you name it. We've generally got somebody, and we've got about 250 investors. So it's quite a diverse portfolio. So that's AQL and Northinvest.
I think this is really important context as to why you're an expert in this space and why we're going to discuss a little bit more about the Estonian-UK partnership, because people can understand why you have this experience behind it. So you may have gathered, both of our accents, that we are from the UK, surprise, surprise. And we have quite a long-standing relationship with Estonia, yours slightly longer than mine, and a love for this country. And I think what's been really exciting to see over the last however many years is the collaboration that's been happening on an individual and a private level, whether that be investments, whether that be hiring talent across both nations. And we are now getting into a more formalized process of what that collaboration can look like. We've just seen the UK and Estonia sign a partnerships agreement, and the memorandum has been signed really recently. So I kind of want to understand from your point of view, where do you see this collaboration going with this support from government? Not specifics just yet, just more in terms of where are we headed?
Okay. I knew very little about Estonia until about 10 years ago. Before that, as a technology enabler, we had a few Estonian customers in the telephony and Internet of Things space. And all that we knew is that they had a very dry sense of humor. Whenever they raised support tickets, there was always a really interesting dialogue. Always paid their bills on time, and just had this really strong moral compass. And it was about 10 years ago, I was asked by the chief exec of our region, the public sector, what do you know about Estonia? And I said, well, very interesting, about 1.3 million people, same kind of size as our city region in Yorkshire. Fantastic digital nation, managed to create a straight edge for identity with an e-residency scheme. And he went, great, stop. You know far more than me. The ambassador's coming tomorrow, will you take him out for lunch? And that was Lauri Bambas. And that's where the love affair with Estonia started. So I'm now slightly more invested in Estonia. So I'm one of Estonia's honorary consuls to the UK and the Isle of Man. But also I bought Porkini-Mush, sort of near Tapa. So I have a project of the heart to complete over the next 10 years or so. So I'm definitely invested there. And I'm about to marry a woman from Tartu.
So very invested then. That's the biggest investment
yes.
so far.
But to get onto your question, when we first started socializing the idea of a UK-Estonia tech partnership, this was nearly 10 years ago, and there was actually a formal thing, but it never really got traction at the highest levels. And suddenly we've got into a position where our prime ministers, respectively, have agreed that to put our best foot forward, we need to create a strong UK-Estonia trade and tech partnership. I was at a talk the other day that our Prime Minister was giving, and the thing that really made me incredibly hopeful for how this could head is that I know that Estonia understands entrepreneurs. I know that the leadership of Estonia understands entrepreneurs, but to hear Rishi Sunak say, I want to support and back our entrepreneurs because it's the entrepreneurs that are going to make a difference. Now that stood out to me. So I think that they want to do this. And we're just putting together the building blocks now Obviously, there's been a little bit of a move around in government, as you can imagine, as all governments have on both sides. So as the dust settles, it's really up to all of us to get together and lead by example. And whilst these things can be led by the public sector, we all need to be pushing in the same direction at the same time, and eventually our paths will converge. And we're seeing more and more of this. And there's initiatives which are not just UK-Estonia, but that UK-Estonia play a key part in, such as the NATO initiative called Diana, which is the North Atlantic Cooperation. And again, that's focused on what they call dual-use technology. And we were having this conversation about, will startups be comfortable talking about sort of weaponizing their output or their products or their services? But I think it's bigger and deeper than that. So, for example, I run a non-regulated private investment fund that allows me to invest in a really agile way with what I think is very early stage, high risk tech startups. The fund's called LS7. It's at ls7.uk. We haven't invested in much, but what we have invested in has been quite exciting. And I put the fund together to co-invest alongside Tim Draper, another friend of Estonia, who's backed many Estonian startups, to co-invest alongside Tim in a company called Gravity Industries, which was the first proper human flight jet suit. So that's definitely high-risk tech. And we've gone from there into heavy lift drones, and from there into artificial diamonds. And when you look at why, for example, NATO and Diana would be interested in artificial diamonds, artificial diamonds are really the key to deep drilling technology. And if you can make deep drilling lower cost, you can start to harness stable baseload energy, renewable energy. We've just done a test drill at one of my charities. We've gone down nearly 5 kilometers through the Connubium basalith, which is solid granite. And that's basically one of the first successful geothermal drills in the UK. But if we're to try and approach energy security, it's these kind of technologies that we should be looking for and looking to support. And one of the things that I'm trying to do with government is make them aware of sometimes how many steps removed from the end result that you want to achieve you need to be in the technology stack to actually create the new technology, to create a singularity to make a difference.
So, Adam, you spoke quite a lot to me when we spoke before coming here.
Sorry about that.
It was great. I learned a lot in a space that I know very little, which is this idea of defense tech. And you've just mentioned it there too. And I'm really curious about something you said to me on the phone, which was, we can't shout about what we don't have when it comes to defense tech. How do you think that collaboration then between Estonia and the UK is going to be able to support both nations if we can't be like, hey, we really don't have these capabilities right now? What does that look like?
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, so I'm just going to say it. When it comes to defense capability, the one thing that's quite highly classified is for any nation to come out and say, hey, by the way, we're struggling with this, we haven't got this, this is a chink in our armor, this is our blind spot. You can't say that. That's a dangerous proposition. Also, with countries such as Estonia, Estonia isn't a Five Eyes country, but that doesn't mean that we can't find ways of creating trust, sharing, in terms of innovation, in terms of expertise, in terms of skills. And on both sides, and this will probably be more than bipartite, there'll be many other nations involved. We can start to all be sort of honest brokers and look at each other's capability and find a common language and a way of working to nurture the capability without saying, I haven't got that and I need it. That's quite a delicate arrangement to start to nurture. But those conversations are already being had, for example, in the UK and in Whitehall. So I know that those conversations are also being had here. So we just need to start to bring that together and make it into something coherent.
So if we're bringing that down to, say, individual level for, say, founders who are here right now, I'm really curious about this idea of dual-use technology. And we're seeing Estonian high net worth individuals investing in the UK in defense tech. We're also seeing government invest in both. As a founder, if we're being approached to use our tech as defense technology, what are the ethics around that? And you talk about this idea of dual use. What does that actually mean for people who are maybe thinking about the space, given the current situation and global situation right now?
Sure, and I think that when I'm talking about defense tech, I'm not necessarily talking, particularly not talking about offensive tech. I'm talking about...
What's the difference?
So one's designed to stop things killing you, the other's designed to go and kill people, bluntly. I'm talking more about defense tech. So, for example, we have a customer who's innovating in the Internet of Things space. They started off in irrigation, and then they moved into forest security. And this was first around poaching and also illegal forestry. And they've realized that what they've built is a highly sensitive proximity alarm that could be used for protecting borderless borders. So those soft, fuzzy edges where you have a lot of forest. Now, I know that there's some great companies in Estonia that have also done really great innovation in this space. So the likes of Cybernetica, I know there's others as well. But the identifying, or even just being close to perhaps experts from defense who understand use cases, you can start to say, this could also be used for this. And then you can also be signposted to other really large pots of money as well. There's some huge innovation pots been launched in the UK. In fact, we've just separated out our Department of Culture, Media and Sport into two entities. One's looking more at culture and arts, and the other's looking more at innovation, science and technology. And there's a £7.9 billion fund for UK research and innovation, which I feel that UK and Estonia can unlock.
How could they do that? Tell us a bit more.
I think we need to talk more. I think we need to get a framework together. I think that anybody that's at all interested in the subject should drop me an email, adam@aql.uk. We really want to lead this with private initiatives and to showcase those private initiatives. And then we can start to raise those in front of the right people in government. Those right people, we're already talking to them at the highest level. But it's up to us to show them what good looks like and how this works. So I think this is the right forum for it. So drop me a line.
The other question I have around this space, Adam, which I find really fascinating, is there are often boundaries that are put in place when a startup takes on either government funding or, say, potentially innovation investment. How do you think that the support between the UK and Estonia creates more markets for these founders as opposed to narrowing who they can then sell to or work with?
I think that probably when you talk about dual use, a lot of that dual use would be done in partnership with defence framework contractors. So look at the Lockheeds or the Thaleses or the BAE Systems. So there may be restrictions on use within that partnership sphere. But you're absolutely right. What you don't want to do is to put any of those clamps in terms of export controls or usage controls on the founder's innovation that they want to exploit commercially. So you would do this absolutely through partnership. We've seen a few things happen where, for example, Starlink's been rolled out to Ukraine, and then there's been difficulties in using it to enable offensive technology, which is very difficult to police one way or another. So the end result is just lack of clarity and difficulties. And that's, again, due to export controls of the equipment for use in that scenario. So you have to be very clear. Consumer or business use within the founder's entity, partnership with a defence contractor, unlocking defence money to look at the other side of it as well. But there's actually a very good conduit and landing strip for entering into partnerships with the larger framework operators, and they have a mandate to work with smaller startups as well. They have to do this. You can't, if you knock on the door, they're not going to say go away.
Okay, I promised the audience some time for Q&A at 5 minutes, and there's one that's come in. If you do, two that's come in. So, as a northerner from Liverpool, how best can enterprises Not sure what this question means. How best can enterprise push talent and companies from London? Oh, it's the talent question. How do you support between the two countries? Sorry, I was trying to reword that. I apologize for whoever asked this question.
Okay. Welcome to the Northerner.
Do you want to rephrase?
Yeah, basically, it's great. I can see there's so much digital talent here in Estonia. How do we stop it just going to London? How do we get it to the north? Now that we've lost the framework for Brexit, what's the new framework?
Beautiful question.
So the question, just so everyone else who couldn't hear it, is how do we ensure that talent doesn't just get stuck in London, especially after Brexit? It has meant that a whole bunch of stuff has been lost. We can go into the details. There's a whole list of things that have been lost. Not that I am biased, I am not. As a reporter, I should not be. How do we make that happen?
Okay, I'll try to answer it without sounding ranty about some of the shortcomings. Thing number one is we need to really understand the pillars of our entrepreneurial ecosystems better, and this includes the universities and the role that the public sector has to play, which is largely around understanding and facilitating, not about initiating. We need to make sure that those cities are magnetic to the people who are going through the university there. Otherwise they just go straight back to London or go to London because they think that's where all the jobs are. So for example, there's something in the UK called the One List that nobody ever talks about, which is a special pot of money which is given to each city to say, if these companies left this city, it would be cataclysmic. And we need to make sure that we really back those One List employers, because those are the ones that can really act as a nucleus for skills. The other thing we've got to be really careful of in the UK, and we need to learn from Estonia on this front, is that when an Estonian company has a success, generally the founders are also based in Estonia, the wealth stays in Estonia, it probably even stays in the same city as well, and it gets reinvested in startups and new activity in the same city, so you get this wonderful virtuous effect. I think we're at about the fourth sort of generation now of startups, and if anyone's seen the Pete Frame book, The Rock and Roll Family Tree, you can kind of, you can actually trace the same rock star CTO through all of them, and it's quite a joy to watch. But in the UK, we have something which is basically an inward investment program, and we've done this in so many of our cities where we've suddenly had a well-meaning public sector land a huge US hyperscaler in the middle of a delicate, fledgling entrepreneurial ecosystem where everybody's just fighting for the skills and nurturing the skills to get their startup going. And they've just about got enough coders, they've probably just about got an architect, but they've had to fight for them. And suddenly you end up with a hyperscaler landing. And what that does is generally hoover up all those skills and expertise. And also, generally, the shareholder is also not present in that country or that city. Yeah. So the wealth actually goes somewhere else. So you're not building that virtuous circle. And that's...
I have to stop you, Adam. I'm so sorry.
No problem.
We're running out of time. Please continue this conversation afterwards. We have spoken a lot on defence, and the Estonian and UK tech partnership encompasses so much more than that. We have talked a bit about talent. Just before we finish up, it would be really great just if you could summarise 2 or 3 of the really key points that you are, bullet point, the key bits of the partnership that you think are really exciting moving forward.
Okay, well, very, very quickly, I think privately led. So anyone that's interested in fostering these relations, please just get in touch. And I see a big red 0 here. So my email address, once again, is adam@aql.uk. Thank you.
Adam, thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for being here. If you want to ask any questions, we will be around. Have a great, great conference.
Thank you.